take a look at how to create the histogram for the distribution of our formula. I'm back here on the spreadsheet where I created my shortcut catch and long throw percentages along with my super formula that added those two together to rank everybody. Now, if I am going to use this super formula as my primary way of deciding who to draft, I'm going to want to create the histogram on this column of data. So in this column we have 98 players, and every one of those numbers would go into my stat list 1. If I were to type all of these with all these decimals, I would have a headache that would last for months. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the column. I'm going to go to Format, go to Number, and if I go down to the option for 2 decimals, you can also do custom decimals if you want something else, but 2 decimals, it will round these all off to 2 decimals. So all of a sudden these numbers seem pretty reasonable now. And what I'll have, someone on my team will read off these numbers to me while I punch them into my calculator. Because of the fact that place value doesn't make a huge difference, if you were to type this as 124 and type this number down at the bottom as 53, it would give you the exact same shape of a histogram as if you did 1.24 and 0.53. So just to save you a few clicks there. So you'll take out your calculator and you'll go to your stat list. You'll go over to your list 1. You'll go up to the top, clear it, enter if there's anything in there, and you will type in these numbers. So I'm going to skip the decimals like I said and just be consistent with how I do this. And I would type in each one of the numbers in that list. Just a heads up, this is going to take a while to get all these numbers in there. But once you have them all in, you're going to want to make sure your histogram settings are right. So go to your second stat plot. Go to your plot 1 here. Make sure that it's set to list 1. Make sure that it's set to histogram, like mine are right now. And once that's true, you go to your zoom and you go to 9 for zoom stat. And you're going to create your histogram. If you get something illogical like this, check your window. If your window says your max is some huge number like this, you probably made a typo like I did. So go to your stat edit, and if you go down a little bit, you're going to see here, okay, here's my error. So I would just insert an extra number to be my 119. And I would go over this to be my 115. And while I'm here, I can just go through and check to make sure that I have no other errors. And once you get to the bottom of your list and you see that everything seems to make sense, then you can go ahead and try it again. Zoom 9. And this time, here's our histogram. So what we can see from this histogram here, remember, no histogram is perfect, but generally we can see that it's a roughly symmetrical graph. There's a higher peak here, a lot of data concentrated in the center, and a decent amount of data evenly spaced below it. Once you get above this big peak here, seems like a lot of the data trails off. So if your super formula is very good, and you trust that it's a pretty good measure of how good a player is, you're going to probably want to really go for the people in the top, because it seems like that talent drops off. There's only a few people at the very top thresholds, a few more below it, but once you get to a certain level, it seems like everyone's almost the same. For those of you who have participated in things like a fantasy football draft, you'll know that in the first couple rounds, the players available, it's very competitive. Every player seems to have a pretty distinct advantage. But in the later rounds, what's the difference between this defense and that kicker? Basically, they all kind of seem the same. And so what you're looking at in this histogram here is at the top levels, there's a lot of separation. There's not many people at those top levels. And then there's a lot of people kind of lumped in the middle. And then as you get worse and worse, it seems like, again, there's a lot of things lumped together. So what you would do for your assignment is you would just copy down this histogram. You would get a sense of what your window is so that you could label your histogram. Maybe you would tweak it a little bit so it'd be easier to label. So I might make this 50. I might make this 140, and then give it a bin size of 10. And so that'll give me roughly the right number of bins. And when I go to my graph, now it'll be easier for me to label this graph when I copy it onto paper. And you'll either take a picture of this or hand this in on paper.